Welcome to our monthly live sleep chat. My name is Marta Carlo. I am the founder of the International Parenting and Health Institute, and I am here with my guest, Soda Kushkowski, who is our instructor of our Integrative Adult Sleep Coach certification program, as well as the founder of Start with Sleep. And today, first of all, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2022. We thought we'd kick off the year by discussing the holistic practices that are necessary to be successful with your clients. I've worked with so many professionals over the last 12 and a half years. And prior to that, I've been working with clients now for over 25 years. Soda also has been working in the field for many years as well. And what we continue to see happen often is although people intentionally want to engage in holistic practices, we continue to see from time to time how people are missing the mark quite often because there's some key pieces missing in certain areas. And so today, Soda and I are going to talk about what those are. And we're going to share some examples of what we continue to see that we feel is vital. If you really want to stand out as a holistic practitioner, if you really not only want to stand out, but more importantly, make a difference, you want to really help someone uncover what is going on and get to that root cause, then these are the kinds of things that need to be considered in your practice. So one of the first things that Soda and I are going to talk about is how each of our clients are individual and unique, and the dynamic, and how we must approach our work with an open and divergent mindset. Because what we see often happening, and Soda will share about this in just a moment, is, for example, a really great example, we'll have a forum, okay? A very open public forum, could be on a Facebook group, usually is where we see it. And then you'll have a professional or a client post a question. A professional may post a question about a client case that they're having, or a client themselves may directly post a question about an issue that they're having. And what we see happening is right away, people are jumping in, whether it is other colleagues, other professionals jumping in, or other people who are going through a similar situation related to the client, and they will just start providing their experiences and their answers. They're not going into what is going on with that specific client. So Soda, let's begin by sharing a bit more about this uniqueness and this dynamic and why it's relevant and so important if we're going to really help someone get to their root cause.
Well, I think, to start the conversation, I think it has to do with context. Because first and foremost, when something's written in form, people know whether it be text messaging, email, sometimes things can be taken out of context first and foremost. Second of all, as coaches, our job is to ask as many questions as possible. So when you're given limited information, and most often it is limited information, right? When it comes to sleep, it's, I'm working with a client, they're waking up throughout the night. We've looked at, sleep hygiene before going to bed. We've looked at like what they're eating and like their habits, but we're really not getting to the root cause of what is it that's causing them to still wake up throughout the night. And it really has to do with that framework, right? So I think that's the first thing. It comes from our mindset around it too, understanding the individual and their core belief system, where they're coming from. We establish habits based on our own beliefs. A lot of times they're limiting beliefs, right? So we're not able to change behaviors, or we might do things inadvertently without realizing the consequences of what they have. And so you start getting that education, you don't realize how one thing applies to another. So I think by asking as many questions as possible, that's where then if and only then, that's when you're going to start, providing some sort of recommendation. But it's more about asking as many questions as possible. And through that active listening, especially if you're kind of a third party to it versus working directly with the individual, getting as much information, extracting as much information as possible to really pinpoint, like, yeah, all of these are factors, but what's the most significant factor?
Yes. Something else that happens is you and I know this very well. We both work with professionals. We share with them exactly what we're sharing now publicly, all this information. We train them. We provide them all the resources and the context so they can dive in. And yet we see from time to time, thankfully, not a majority, but a few scattered here or there, professionals who still, after receiving this information, will continue to resort to the very generic ways of uh, moving forward with a case. And instead of diving into all those questions, they will default right to what they know. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, and we know when it comes, and to bring it back to sleep, because our conversation is about sleep. When it comes to our sleep, there are a number of internal and external factors that can occur. But I think it's all about the space in which you're in as well. Like, our success comes from our environment. There's a lot now with the new year, with people making resolutions and I was talking to someone earlier today. They were saying something by like January 19th, like the majority, like 90% of people like just give up on their goal and they don't move forward with it. Right. And it's all about setting ourselves up for success. So first and foremost, one of the biggest issues people wake up at night has to do with environment, right? If we don't set up our environment successfully, then we're going to get back into a place where, the temperature is not right, where that comfortability is not right. It's the same way with our life, right? If we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, our habits are shaped with the environment that we surround ourselves with. So I think it has to do with, the beliefs that we put on ourselves and understanding the framework from which the individual is coming from. Sometimes you don't have those support pieces in place, which is why a coach is so great, because they can open up your mind, right, to that opened thinking outside of the box in terms of what could be occurring and supporting you in a new kind of way. So I think that's one of the first things.
Absolutely. Environment is key. So if you're a holistic professional watching, that's our main audience. Anyone watching will benefit from this. But if you are a holistic professional watching this, or you want to learn to be more holistic in your practice, pay attention to your environment, and specifically not only your physical environment, which is very important, ensuring that you're setting up your environment in a way where it feels nurturing, where you can think clearly, where you don't have stacks of paper all over you, that allows you to be motivated and inspired. But more importantly, surrounding yourself with those that you want to think like, you want to be similar to, in the sense that the structure or the system that they're following or using, you want to begin applying. So environment is key. Another 2 main factors and reasons why I see holistic professionals getting really stuck is because we forget that it takes practice. When you're used to thinking for so many years, years upon years upon years, you've been taught and trained to receive a certain amount of information, very cookie cutter style. This is the way it is. And Soda and I, in our last live chat, we went into different forms of thinking. If you want to watch that last video, we're creatures of habit. And so we have patterns of thinking. And so if you feel or believe that you're going to take a holistic certification program, and right after that program, okay, I got everything I need, I know everything now, and all of a sudden overnight, I'm going to be a holistic practitioner, that's not the way it works. It's just like with every other profession, whether it's physical or mental. Okay, if you want to learn how to dance, you want to learn to be good at any skill, it takes practice. This is one of the reasons in our programs we go into deep dives, we go into case studies. We want to ensure that our professionals are taking the time that they need, the necessary time that they need to put into practice what they're learning. Because if you're not putting into practice what you're learning, your mind is going to naturally revert to the ways of thinking that you're used to. And then all of a sudden you'll find yourself, we wrote in our description, one of those professionals where you're like, I took this program, I'm super holistic. And then all of a sudden you find yourself responding to someone with quick answers rather than diving into those very necessary questions. And then you wonder why. It's not because something is wrong with you. It's just simply because you need practice. All of us do. It took me also a while. I mean, I've been thinking holistically and always questioning from a long time. But once I really got into coaching, I had to remind myself, the more that I practice, the more that I get out there and train myself to ask those questions. And then secondly, it's also about letting go of needing to know everything up front, because what happens often too, as professionals, this goes across the board, I feel, for not just holistic, every professional, we're in this expertise mindset of, I know this, I know that. And if you go on social media, especially Instagram, all the TikToks, what are people doing? They're just divulging information, this tip, that tip, this tip. But who's asking questions? Okay. Questions are so powerful. This is what we're going to get into also with reflective listening next. But those questions are powerful. And so, as a holistic professional, to have the confidence and the ability to know that when you actually ask a question instead of just throwing out a tip, you are providing a tremendous amount of expertise and talent and support for that person, because you are giving them the ability to receive a way of perceiving a situation that they may not have thought of before. You're giving them an opportunity to reflect. This now leads us into this active listening and creating a dialogue that encourages transformation. So, Soda, why don't you begin talking a bit about that?
I think that's why we see so much now when it comes even to go back to the new year in terms of people trying to follow, new nutrition or diet plans. Like psychology has made its way into everything. And with health, we're reframing our entire healthcare system, right? Because people are realizing they have to be their own best advocates. There's more transparency now in terms of like all of these things, because there's so many parts of our health that are interconnected that we didn't realize before. So I think it's really important as part of the conversation to really put these pieces together. But I forgot the initial point that I was going to make there. We were talking about what we were talking
active
about.
Listening and that dialogue, that transformational dialogue.
And I think part of that, like the psychology of it is, again, we talked about those questions, and psychology has made its way into all of this because it's about not only what people are saying, but the things that they're showing, right? A lot of times when it comes to limiting beliefs, we put these pressures on ourselves because we're not honest about who we are. We're not honest about what we want, what's realistic for ourselves. So when it comes to coaching, it's better to really work with clients in these small, minute, these micro steps, right? Because when you're talking about successful, sustainable changes, it's not throwing and doing an overhaul on someone, right? Because that's not sustainable. They're always going to trip themselves up. And it's the reason why someone might start a new nutrition or diet plan and then they end up eating a chocolate chip cookie. So they throw the whole thing away and they say, oh, well, I'll start on Monday or maybe next year. And they kind of give up on it. And I think it's about the way that we speak to ourselves. When it comes to limiting beliefs too, it's how kind we are to ourselves. I talk a lot about this in the work that I do because, if someone pays you a compliment, what's the very first thing that we do? We often try to deflect it, right? We come up with, oh, that's a nice sweater. Oh, well, I got this for $5. Or someone says that you look nice and you say, oh, well, I'm trying to lose more weight. We're never like accepting of it. And the way that we treat ourselves, we're not very we don't practice enough gratitude, I think, when it comes to it. So I think that we limit ourselves in the success because of those types of things.
Yeah. So in those conversations, placing that very important attention to what is working, because often when we're met with those challenges, we get so caught up in what's not working that we often miss to include what's working and remind our clients of the things that are working for them that we can integrate and interweave into, the challenges that they want to overcome. And you made a really good point about this overhaul and the new year. It's interesting because I also have found that people often set themselves up for such these big moments. Okay, it is a new year, but in essence, every day is a new day. So every moment's a new moment. And it's interesting how we build up this entire year and what we're going to do in a year and what we're going to start these big things. But really, those long lasting and powerful changes begin the day to day. They don't begin in a new year. And so that's one of the key factors also in a holistic practice, that we work with our clients to focus on that gratitude, on that kindness, on what's working, and the fact that every moment is a new moment. Every moment's a new opportunity. We don't have to wait till a certain period or event of a time to then convince ourselves that this is the moment we're going to start. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to start, after this event. No, moment to moment, we have an opportunity to show up and make the choices that we need to make that are going to enhance our lifestyle, and in particularly sleep. And so it's interesting because you also mentioned with the discomfort or sometimes I would say shame or guilt that people feel in admitting that, okay, I have to work on these things. And I think this is also where a coach, a holistic coach, has a wonderful opportunity to build a trust and a confidence and also support with their clients, in that as coaches, there is a very important aspect to maintaining boundaries. In all professions there are. We want to maintain professional boundaries. But there is space for vulnerability. There is space for us to empathize with our clients. There are moments, and I'm very selective, where depending on what my client is going through, I will share, I understand. If I sincerely have been through a similar experience, I will say that if I feel that it's going to support my client. So this is also one of the reasons why, in addition to the questioning, another aspect is customizing, really being very specific and customizing how you're communicating your experiences with your client. So people will throw out their own experiences, but are you really receiving what that other person's going through? Do you really have an understanding of what they're really deeply going through? No, most people just have those few words on the forum, a few sentences, right, that they see. And so therefore, you're not really grasping what someone is going through emotionally, what they've been through before, and how, what led up to this point. So having the ability to be present, to have that active listening, to empathize, to really give yourself the ability to receive, not just to give, throw out those tips. I want to show what I know, but to receive what your client is saying is so key, because that then, when they feel that, that allows them to understand my coach is human too. That gives them a sense of comfort, and also the ability to share more and have an easier time to face the things that before maybe they were ashamed of facing, because now they understand, wow, someone else gets it. Someone else is truly listening to me. Someone else absolutely cares. Hey, they might even have gone through a similar experience. They get it. So I feel safe enough to be able now to face my own stuff, because I have that space and where I feel safe to do it. Most people are afraid not only of themselves, but the space that they're in. It's like they want to measure up. They want to, okay, I want to please. They have that people pleasing inside of them, and I want to show them that, okay, I'm a good client and I can do this. And so that's also why it's embarrassing sometimes, or it feels shameful to want to share certain aspects, and why many of us as holistic coaches will find that sometimes through various discussions down the line, our clients will share something later on that they did in the beginning, and we're going, why didn't they share
Absolutely. I find that when I was working as a coach, one of the things that I would do initially was to take an intake form, and I changed a lot about the way that I work with clients, because until you develop that rapport and that relationship, they're not as forthcoming. Someone might not be as forthcoming to say, you know what, I do go from different sleep aid to sleep aid. I have tried this. One of the most common that I get from people is, I'll ask them if they've tried any sleep supplements or herbal supplements, or what are the things that they've kind of engaged in. And it won't be till the end of the conversation where they say, you know what, I have to be honest. I do take melatonin. I do it like 2-3 times a week. And they'll be a lot more forthcoming when you've established that relationship. And I think that that's what is so great, leading into like the kind of the end of our conversation, in terms of the holistic education, because even with everything that I've learned in sleep over the last 16 years, I continue to learn every single day. But the foundation for any work that we do starts with that holistic education. So this new program that you've just launched for 2022 is so important, because we cover already within the respective program we have on the core beliefs, and like understanding your triggers, and the way that we speak to ourselves, and embracing gratitude, and all of these things. But it's such an important part of the work, and it's like you can't even get to the tips and the recommendations unless you've done that work to understand who's the person that sits in front of me, who is the individual that I'm speaking to. Challenges can be the same, you can have demographics be the same, but the individual will always be different. The circumstances of which that they've grown up, their environment, even from where they live, the people that they're surrounded with, all of those things are factors and important pieces in the work that you do with them. If someone doesn't have that, the sociability, right, they're not going out. Obviously with COVID, we've had a lot more in terms of like mental health, but if someone doesn't have the right support unit around them, are you like them coming to you, they need a lot more support from you as a coach than someone who they say, oh, well, I have a partner who I walk with every day in my neighborhood. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really important to get all of those key components before you even begin your work together. So if you want to share with us, I'm so excited about the holistic education component. All of our current students are privy to this, the new students that are going to be coming in, but just share with us, because I'm so excited about it.
Thank you, Soda. I'm excited about it too. There's so many reasons I'm excited about it. I do want to share one more thing that will lead into this, which is I'll have coaches often come to me and say, Mar, one of the reasons I also struggle with the holistic aspect and the questioning and everything we've been talking about is because the client sometimes will come forward and say, I'm paying you to tell me what to do. I'm paying you to tell me what to do, not to actually have me do the work. And that's where the accountability, I want to touch just a little bit on that. And we'll dive right into the holistic coaching, is the accountability. This is actually what holistic coaching education is going to also provide you, because we've learned so much. We continue to learn so much. I also say, and this is why I love my work, because I'm the first to say I've made so many mistakes. I've fallen down so many times, but I get back up and I find a way. I'm like, all right, life continues to throw these curveballs at me. And the more it does, I show up very humbled and with gratitude, because I realize it's a gift life is giving me. It's not working against me. It's an opportunity, because the more that I can get through something, kind of like a workout, I can give back to people. So I want to share with you off the bat that I've been through a lot and continue to go through a lot. And every single time I have a tremendous amount of gratitude when I take a step back and I have the ability to say, okay, how do I work through this? I go into receiving mode as well. And then once I start working through something, I understand how I can show up for others and support them as well through this process. And what I have found is you are going to be very challenged by clients. It's not an easy path with clientele. You're going to have all different kinds of personalities. You're going to have from people that are ashamed or feel guilty, that don't want to admit something, and as a result makes it a little harder on you, to people that are going to make demands on you. And they're going to be like, I'm paying you to tell me what to do. Or, your holistic approach is a bunch of BS. Give me the quick fix. My friend is taking such and such a supplement or medication, and overnight they're seeing changes. And what's this? And so what happens is when you get confronted by these situations, which most often in your training programs, you don't really cover those. You cover the science of things and how things work and the structure and the systems. You don't really go into those, situations where, oh, what happens if a client, which has happened to me, by the way, starts, making a sexual kind of advance at you, indirectly, and they're, married, for example. What do you do in those situations? I mean, there's so much that you go through. So this holistic coach education program is going to take you through a personal and professional experience where you yourself get to really understand who you are as a person, how you're thinking, how you're taking care of yourself, how you're showing up for yourself in your life, because it's directly tied into your profession. The more you understand you, the more you understand how you're showing up in your life for others, both personally and professionally, you're going to have a tremendous advantage on how you show up for your clients in your business and how you show up as a holistic coach. So the holistic coach education program is going to provide you a number of tools. It will have it will tie into a lot of the foundations you've already learned, but it's going to give you physical practices that you can work on and you can begin to incorporate on a day-to-day basis, so that you can begin to understand how you are showing up in your sessions and where you're getting caught up, where you're limiting yourself. It's also going to go into raising your vibration and not having to chase clients, having to be concerned of, I need more clients this week or this month, or overworking, the whole psychological thought or belief of, work harder and I'm going to get more. No, it's work smarter, but it's also about understanding, how you're also taking care of yourself and holding yourself accountable. Because the more you know yourself, basically, the better you are going to be at what you do. And that's the beauty about our work. That's why I love it so much, because I have to be accountable to myself. If I'm not accountable to myself, I'm not going to show up with my clients in an honest, authentic, and skilled way. The more I admit to myself, okay, these are my shortcomings, this is where I have to learn, the more that I'm able to help other people. And the beauty about that is that we are all in this in that same fashion, meaning we all have our different experiences and our different paths and journeys, but we all share the fact that we're human beings, and none of us are exempt from challenges. None of us are exempt from failures. None of us are exempt from hardships, no matter what it looks like from the outside. From the outside, it might seem, wow, they have it together. Wow, look at their life. And yes, some people may have things organized and together, but every person will still have their set of challenges they have to go through. And so the more we can show up together as holistic coaches to confront this, to have that empathy, that kindness, to get to know ourselves better, and do it in a way where we're doing it together. So I'm going to have group sessions. It's not just individual or self-directed aspects. There's going to be group parts. Then you're going to be able to show up in a way that is you've never imagined, that is very powerful. So that's what's going to be launching, or it has launched, but we're getting more of the groups and things started in the next few weeks.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off what you said, I've learned a lot from you in the time. I mean, what has it been now? God, I don't even know, 6, 7 years. It's added up very quickly. And I'm a go kind of person. I'm very organized. I'm able to do multitask, or I say not multitasking, because I think now I try to be very mindful of the task. Like whatever I'm working on, that's the thing that gets 100% of my attention. I'm not trying to do multiple things at once. So I multitask by taking small pieces and giving it my full attention at the time. But one big thing that I've learned from you, and what I've learned from this program, and everything that you share over the years, is sitting with something. You're the first person to say, you know what, I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to reflect on it, and I'm going to get back to you. And I really respect that. And it's something that I've tried to adopt for myself, because sometimes we can get so inside of our heads where we have like a misunderstanding, or we jump to a conclusion about something that was said or done. And then we like want to just constantly be reacting. And I try to be proactive in my work. I mean, the reason that I left sleep medicine to get into sleep health, because I wanted to be proactive, right? So I want to be proactive in all the other parts of my life as well. I don't want to be reactionary. So that takes time with, again, being kind enough to sit with yourself and say, you know what, let me just take a deep breath. Let me think about this situation. Let me not just think about all the possible scenarios or all the bad things that can happen, because I'm a Virgo. So like I always begin with the end in mind, right? It's like, thinking about all of these different scenarios. It's like, okay, what's the best scenario? And I kind of like work through everything until I feel like I'm at a place where I'm really listening to my intuition. I mean, we're all intuitives in some respect, right? And it's taking the time to say, okay, is the decision that I'm making, how do I feel about it? How is it sitting with me? Because your body knows, when something feels like it's off, or you're about to make a wrong decision. And when we choose to not listen to ourselves, what happens? Disaster,
Yes.
most often, right? So it's like one thing I said, you know what? I'm very big on, I sit with it. My husband like laughs now, because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sit with it. Like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, let me just take a moment. And I learned that from you. That was, that's something that I think is so important. Everyone can benefit from.
Thank you. And I will tell you, and the reason I'm so passionate about that is because I've been kicked in the butt one too many times from not doing it in my past. And so I learned the hard way. And I will tell you that it's very humbling, because I've mastered it so much in business, and sometimes in my personal life, it's not easy. Sometimes people know how to trigger you personally in a way that professionally is very different. And so it's this constant learning. And especially with professionalism, I recently went through a situation where I worked with someone who was reactive to one of their students. And as a result, this ensued a cascade of drama. And so it could have easily been prevented if this person just took a step back and said, look, this person triggered me. I get it. She's going through some stuff. But if I take that step back, I'll be able to show up in a way that's neutral, that's actually more powerful, and that can then resolve the situation in a positive light. I have found, because, I have so much going on, as so much going on, and manage so many things, that the more I can avoid drama and prevent it, the better.
Yeah. And it's putting like pieces, like I have this thing that I've done for years, and I didn't realize it. It's probably one of the positive things that I do. If something gets me upset, I'll write a letter either to myself or to that person. I never send it or anything, but it's kind of like you get all your thoughts out, and then you go back and you read it, and you're like, oh my goodness, like that was, I can't, I'm so glad I didn't send this, or in the heat of the moment. Like, it gives you it gives you that buffer time. So it's putting that space in between reacting and like giving yourself something that you can do in the moment to kind of release that aggression. That maybe it's not a breathing practice or doing yoga or doing some sort of physical, but it's writing something out, and it's mentally kind of getting that dump out, and then going back and realizing, what, I'm glad that I didn't come from that space, because that's not a reflection of the person I want to be. And I think that goes back to our beginning conversation, where we're not honest about who is it that we want to be. We say we want to be an understanding, patient, kind person, right? Is everything that we do in our everyday reflecting that? I think there was something, there's an exercise that they say, when you're angry, take a moment, take like 10 seconds and say, is what I'm going to say, is it kind? Is it
Yes.
necessary? Is there like a better way to say it? And then like taking that, it's the equivalent of like, instead of counting, you're actually thinking to yourself, like, will I regret this? Because my mom used to use this analogy where it was like, if you say something terrible to someone, it's like stabbing holes into a fence, right? You can
Yes.
say that you're sorry, but those holes are still there. So it's like
Exactly.
being very conscious of what you put out in the world, because words are not just words sometimes, right? And
Yes.
it's like you have to be able to be present in your space and communicate how you really feel in a productive way.
Yes. And what people direct at you is theirs. It's not
That's
yours.
their
And so
dynamic, which is like that's part of working with the client. It's all of what's going on with them and not
exactly.
necessarily. Yeah.
And then you hit the key term, which is the space in between. That space in between. It is where the magic lies, that space in between, because that's where the wisdom begins to come out. That's when you begin to realize, I'm not so separate. It's not a division. What's showing up right now is an opportunity. It's not something against me. It's actually for the better of everybody. And if I can rise above that, if I can expand my perspective and take the space that I need to see what's really going on more expansive level, I'm going to see, wow, this person who's getting triggered or coming at me, actually there's an opportunity for us to grow together and be more in a positive light. But often, and again, it's habit, and this is again where we have to be very kind and forgiving to ourselves. Like I shared with all of you, I've mastered it in so many ways and so many things, but from time to time I still will fall too. I'm human. So but it happens less and less, and that's because of practice. So the more you practice something, the more you show up and you're willing to say, hey, I'm human, okay? But I'm just going to keep, and I tell that to my kids too, by the way. I say to them, look, I'm not perfect. And there'll be times your mom might act out or react. However, I'm aware and I'm noticing it. And every single time I'm able to hold myself accountable for that, guess what? I do it less and less and less and less. And before you know it, it's like rare. So just keep that in mind too, because it's a big part of your practice. So all right. Thank you so
Love
much
it.
for listening to us today. We just look forward to this new year with all of you. There's lots of great topics we're going to be bringing to you. And if you have any comments, suggestions, please let us know. We're more than happy to receive them. We look forward to bringing you more in this new year. So thank you very much. Oh, and one more thing. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like button so that other people can also share this information if you feel they're going to benefit from this. Once you hit that like button, it will work with the algorithms on YouTube and let other people know that this is out there. So that helps everyone a lot. Thank you so much. Take care.